Welcome to webinar number 9, the 9th webinar from my online e-course, Working the Workbook, which supports the Course in Miracles workbook practice. If you are part of my class, then you've been following along for about 235 lessons by now, more or less. And if you're not in the class, welcome anyway, because I've made these monthly webinars available to everybody so that we can sit in the truth together and discuss the deep principles of A Course in Miracles and share the beauty and the power that this Course from Jesus offers us. This webinar seems to be about the holy relationship. The last webinar, webinar number 8, was about special relationships. You know, love and relationships used to be my favorite subject to talk about. It seemed like the most important thing in life. And now I would say for me, awakening is the most important thing in life. And awakening comes with love, but a love that is not of this world. And one way that we have access to that love is through the holy relationship. Section 3 in chapter 17 has a beautiful passage in paragraph 6. Starting with sentence 7, it says, "Let Him, the Holy Spirit, uncover the hidden spark of beauty in your relationships and show it to you. Its loveliness will so attract you that you will be unwilling ever to lose the sight of it again. And you will let this spark transform the relationship so you can see it more and more. For you will want it more and more and become increasingly unwilling to let it be hidden from you. You will become unwilling to let the holy relationship be hidden from you. And you will learn to seek for and establish the conditions in which this beauty can be seen." And the conditions always refer to which teacher we choose. Do we choose the ego, which is the condition of sin, guilt, fear, evil, darkness, lack of love? Or do we choose the Holy Spirit, which is the condition of joining, oneness, sameness, unification, fearlessness, love, peace, joy, timelessness? The holy relationship consists of holy instants and holy encounters and a willingness to understand holiness, as opposed to the ego's purpose, which is separation, specialness, uniqueness. The holy relationship is all about sameness and oneness. And we don't fully realize how much we're actually choosing special relationships and separateness. We think that we very much want to join with God and be in relationship with the Holy Spirit as our teacher. And the entire course is really devoted to helping us see that we do not want to do that. At least not from the perspective of the personal self, the person who you think you are and who I used to think I was. So, in chapter 15, let's read a little about the holy instant. In the very first section, the 2 uses of time, if you want to follow, you can go to paragraph 7. The Holy Spirit teaches thus: "There is no hell. Hell is only what the ego has made of the present. The belief in hell is what prevents you from understanding the present because you are afraid of it. The Holy Spirit leads as steadily to heaven as the ego drives to hell. For the Holy Spirit, who knows only the present, uses it to undo the fear by which the ego would make the present useless. And this is why we want the holy relationship, to undo the fear that keeps us out of the timeless present. There is no escape from fear in the ego's use of time, for time, according to its teaching, is nothing but a teaching device for compounding guilt until it becomes all-encompassing, demanding vengeance forever. This is refreshing us on how the ego functions and what the ego would use special relationships for. Special relationships are for projecting guilt out of me and putting it on you so that I don't have to feel it. And deeper than that is the original projection of guilt from the ego, the one ego mind, which includes all of us, onto God our Father, because we didn't want to take responsibility for having an idea that we could leave our Father's mind. And rather than laugh at that idea, we took it seriously, began to believe in it, and with that, pointed the finger at God and said, "It's all your fault." And we went into a tremendous tailspin of feeling that we had committed some kind of crime, guilty of that crime, unable to tolerate the guilt, projecting it out, and feeling terribly afraid of the consequences. And so the first special relationship we tried to have was with God, saying, "Look at me." And God looked right through us, because there was no us. We were just fantasizing and dreaming and hallucinating and having a delusion. And then we got all up in arms and offended that God wasn't admiring the great feat we had achieved of separating from Him and becoming our own ego God self. So once the ego projected this idea of sin, guilt, and fear, it continued to make up a material world of cosmic bodies, human bodies, based in space and time. And all of this splitting was to hide from God and also to have lots of others rather than brothers to project our guilt onto. So we are in the perpetual frame of mind that we are the victim of God and that we are the victim of all these other people out there. And this is all deeply unconscious. Not all of us are aware of feeling this way. Everybody knows people who seem very confident and happy in their lives, and they have no idea that they feel deeply inadequate and are actually miserable. Then we have special love relationships, which are with our family and our spouses and our children and the people closest to us, who seem very near and dear, but also drive us crazy. And we want something from them. We want love. We want attention. We want affection. We want admiration. And we don't want too much, or else we feel suffocated. Or we want to give them things that they don't seem to want. Or we want to fix them or help them, and they don't seem to want to receive our fixing and helping. I call it being horribly helpful. Also, there are special hate relationships where, well, there's always, we love to hate the ones we love-hate relationships. And then there are our enemies, politicians, or our pet peeve about health insurance, or auto mechanics, or insurance salesmen, or lawyers, or doctors, or whoever and whatever it is that sticks in our craw, and we feel righteous that there's a real problem over there, and it's them, not us. And special relationships go beyond people. It's anything that we use to replace God in order to comfort ourselves. So it could be a food addiction, a substance addiction, an alcohol addiction, a shopping addiction, anything that takes the place of God as the one who could solve our problem. And of course, we're never upset for the reason we think. So we're always mesmerized by the world and thinking that our problems are here, rather than remembering that there's only one problem, and that problem lies in the mind. The mind that was distracted by its own fantasy thought that it could separate from the unified mind in which it lives, and which is impossible to separate from. And the Course is leading us back to understanding that we are not bodies, that is a big smoke screen to keep us unaware of God's mind, our true home. The holy relationship brings us into the mind. Many people are confused and think that the holy relationship is between us and somebody else, that we could transform a special relationship with our husband, let's say, into a holy relationship. That's not a holy relationship, because the holy relationship takes place in the mind, not between bodies. We're going to practice with what we think we see out there. So we're going to practice with our brothers, but we're not going to practice having a holy relationship with them. We're going to practice having a holy relationship with the Holy Spirit. And through repetition and willingness, open our mind to receiving the Holy Spirit's forgiveness and miracles. Forgiveness, salvation, both mean undoing. And in fact, in chapter 17 and chapter 22 of the text, I think it's chapter 17 is called Forgiveness and the Holy Relationship, and I believe chapter 22 is Salvation and the Holy Relationship, because both forgiveness and salvation are methods of undoing. They're both ways of saying that it seems like there's something to be forgiven for and saved from. And by choosing forgiveness, which the Course defines as recognizing that what we thought our brother did to us has not occurred. In the pure metaphysics of understanding forgiveness, we realize that this world isn't here, so there's nothing to forgive. And then we can practice the spiritual law that giving is receiving, and receiving is giving. The Holy Spirit has us enter into relationship with Him through the holy instant, which is what we're reading about here, and we will come back to. We begin to use time for the Holy Spirit's purpose of timelessness. And just think about it. Everything that you've ever wanted from a relationship boils down to love. We need love. And we need to give love. And we need our love to be accepted by the one we love. And this rarely happens. So often we feel hungry for somebody to hug us or to hear us, understand us. It's not that we really need to be agreed with so much. More, what we need is acknowledgement and understanding. It's not so much that we need words. We need a kind touch. We need a kind look into our eyes. Well, those are hints as to what love really is. And when we want to love somebody, we want to be received. If we compliment somebody and they brush off our compliment, that doesn't feel good. We want them to receive the compliment. We want them to receive our sweet feelings about them, our confidence in them, because that raises everybody higher. Yes, when we're at our worst, we feel jealous of other people. The grass is always greener on the other side. We don't really want somebody to get ahead. We feel a little sense of relief or pleasure when somebody else is sick and it's not us, and somebody else doesn't get the raise and we did. And we need to admit that to ourselves, because there's nothing special about that. We all have those feelings. That comes with the ego. The ego works on the sacrifice principle, the poverty principle, the deprivation principle. So there's nothing to feel guilty or surprised or ashamed about, ultimately. That we have terrible thoughts about other people and about ourselves, because that comes with the territory of believing that we are a personal self. And nobody's ego is worse than anybody else's ego. The ego is the ego. When we believe in it, we have ego ideas. Lots of people think they have the worst, the most terrible ego. No, you're not even special in that way. The ego is just a thought that we've done something bad and we are bad and we're going to be punished for it, and that if you really look, you're going to see something horrible about yourself. I've heard it so many times and felt it so much myself. Ho-hum. The holy relationship is the undoing of all of that fear-based thinking. And the holy instant, one aspect of the holy relationship, is a way of using time to return to timelessness. Let's read a little more from chapter 15. I was just at that sentence that said that the ego uses time as a teaching device for compounding guilt until it becomes all-encompassing. And of course, what we really are is love, and love is truly all-encompassing. That's when others turn into brothers. So it says, the Holy Spirit would undo all of this guilt and fear of vengeance now. You ready now to be undone, to practice a holy instant, to choose holy relationship as a deeper choice for discovering the truth of who you are now? What else is there to do? What's left? Let's go there now. Fear is not of the present, but only of the past and future, which do not exist. There is no fear in the present, when each instant stands clear and separated from the past, without its shadow reaching out into the future. Each instant, each holy instant, is a clean, untarnished birth, in which the Son of God, which is you and me, emerges from the past into the present, and the present extends forever. It is so beautiful and so clean and free of guilt that nothing but happiness is there. No darkness is remembered, and immortality and joy are now. Let's take an instant right now to allow the magnitude of that truth to really penetrate us. Close your eyes for a moment. Let the body disappear. Reading the text can be very experiential if you take your time with it and stop and use what it says as a practice. The Course tells us that at no single instant does the body exist at all. The body is in the past or the future, but it is not now. And the holy instant helps us experience what we really are, an extension of God's loving light, outside of space, time, and the body. Did you get that? Did you get a glimpse of truth just now? I had a sense of expansion from the inside out. In the holy instant in which you see yourself as bright with freedom, you will remember God. The holy relationship is your ticket home. And holy instants are the way to spend time with the Holy Spirit, your new love partner. You might actually feel guilty at choosing the Holy Spirit over your family, over your wife or husband, over your children. But the Holy Spirit never takes anything away from you. As you connect with Him and allow yourself to realize that you're allowed to choose again, to use the power of decision, to recognize who and what you already are. That holy relationship is going to enhance every relationship in your life. You will interact with the people around you differently because your self-esteem will literally skyrocket. Because instead of trying to build up your personal self, you will be charged effortlessly with your true self, self with a capital S. And that self includes every other person on the planet, Jesus, you, me, all of us. This self is the memory of God within you, calling you home to yourself. This self that you're entering into relationship with is the Holy Spirit, which is you. It's kind of as if the antenna, the old-fashioned antenna, that we used to have on a TV, on rabbit ears, or on the top of a car, it gets pressed down. Now we're raising up that antenna. So the antenna is the self, and when we raise it, it leads home to our Creator. See, all of these words, self, Holy Spirit, sonship, Christ, creation, these are all the same thing. God, the Creator, created His creation, His Son, His child, and that was an extension of His self. When we raise the antenna, when we choose to connect with the Holy Spirit, we're just recognizing what we already are. That's why we can have a spiritual experience just like that now. Just sitting here together, you may have a deep, powerful shift in perception, which is a miracle that opens the mind more. that helps you do a flip-flop from being sure that you are this and suddenly getting it, that the body is no different than the clothing on the body. The body is your vehicle right now. The ego uses it to prove that it's here. But when we turn ourselves over to the holy relationship, the Holy Spirit uses the body to help us receive miracles of love, give those miracles to our brothers simply by seeing the essence of who they are. And that might be wordlessly, just by being willing to see through their personality to the light, which is their real self. And I'm not speaking literally. You may have a feeling sense about it. You may be a visual person and see. You may just know that there's more than meets the eye. There's something within each person around you which is the same thing that you are. That spark, that brightness, the golden circle that the Course talks about, kind of like an inner halo. See, what's really better than choosing real relationship, a relationship with the Holy Spirit? It's not mysterious. It's very practical to constantly remind yourself that you're not alone. Who walks with you? Ask yourself 1,000 times every day. Well, if the Holy Spirit is walking with you, if Jesus is walking with you, and Jesus is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit, then there is a hand to hold. A much more important hand than a human hand. I like to say the Holy Spirit these days because the Holy Spirit is Jesus's teacher, is the guide that Jesus follows, because ultimately Jesus realizes that he is spirit. Lesson 97, I am spirit. I'm hoping that today's webinar can help you think of the holy relationship in a much more tangible way, in a way that makes you awaken to the fact that it's right here. It's your bridge home. And when you're feeling agitated, nervous, anxious, upset, scared, threatened, that you start to, on a dime, remember, I have someone to turn to. And this someone is an inner light that is always within me and without me, above me and below me. And yes, I want this relationship more than anything. Now, believe me, there was a time when that relationship was so invisible that I didn't care about it. As much as I was devoted to the Course and continued reading the Course and practicing the exercises in the Course, I wasn't there yet, and it was working within me. But I remember confiding in my therapist at the time and saying to him, I don't care if God himself right now tells me, that all is well, because all I want is for my marriage to work out. And all I want is for my husband to cooperate with me and talk to me and work things out with me. That was all I wanted. And I feel very understanding of other people who feel that way, be it a spouse or any other person in their life or any other issue that seems absolutely crucial. I get that. And yet, at some point, for instance, right now, there comes a time when we are so weary of the world, as Jesus tells us in the Course. We've just grown so weary that the world isn't tantalizing anymore. We're done in a certain way. And at that moment, there's a great expansion and awareness that we're in this world, but not of it, and we're ready to go home. And that is filled with promise, not with resignation, not with despair. Despair may lead us there, but that shift in perception, that is just being illuminated from within, being above the battleground, as the Course puts it in chapter 23. So that when we're here, really fully immersed in the dream and not knowing that we're the dreamer of the dream, everything seems very important and very real and very pressing, and we have to attend to all the earthly business now, right now. And that kind of frantic panic, that ongoing desperation, keeps us fully distracted, which is exactly what the ego wants. But when we enter into holy relationship with the Holy Spirit, and we practice holy instance of connecting with Him, we levitate, we rise above the battleground, and we see that we are the dreamer of the dream. And the more we do that, the more we realize that we are invulnerable, that no matter what happens in the dream on the battleground, it cannot hurt us. Not really. And I'm talking about the most terrible things. All of that melts away as we reconnect with the inner peace and unity and innocence which we really are and have always been. And then the Holy Spirit uses us for holy encounters. And we realize that love is a state of mind. Love is not an emotion. It is not a feeling. God's mind is unchanging and constant, and that is our true nature. Feelings are emotion, energy in motion. They're always changing. The good news about feelings is that they're not facts, that you can be feeling sad one moment and cry it out, and then it's like a thunderstorm rolled through, and now you're feeling happy. The ego likes to use depression and repression. If we repress our guilt and our shame, then we enter into a chronic state of depression, which leaves us feeling like it's a very steady, constant state. But that's only because we're afraid to actually have our feelings. Feelings just burst and subside. They ebb and flow like waves in the ocean. We seem to be waves in the ocean, but we are the ocean, not the wave. And the beautiful thing about a holy relationship is that you can enter into it in a private space, in stillness, and you might call that meditation or listening or prayer. And you can enter into it in the busiest circumstances, because you just do it with your mind. Holy Spirit, hi, hey, could you guide me right now? Can you help me right now? Remember what I already am? We're not asking, what do I say to this person in front of me? We're asking, can you make me a conduit for your peace? Can you help me see through your vision? We're letting go of all judgment, all interpretation. all perception. We're willing to let go and trust. Lots and lots of people have trust issues. They can't trust anybody else. They can't trust themselves. I mean, that's the setup. The ego is in a perpetual state of betrayal and treachery. So that's why it's so great to stop taking ourselves personally and to stop taking everybody else personally. Because what we think is us is just, it's just a form of the ego at work. And the ego was made to betray and be betrayed. The ego betrayed God by turning on God and blaming God for something God didn't do. And then the ego accused God of treachery. Treachery seems so important. We can get so righteous about it. It's amazing, right? Because it's that expression about glass houses. I don't remember it exactly, but don't throw stones if you live in a glass house. All of us are less than perfect, to say the least. And if there's anyone among us as a human who's perfect, that's an insufferable person, because they'll just look down their nose at everybody and have no empathy, be unwilling to put their foot in anybody else's shoe, because they'll be thinking righteously, why can't we do it like they do? So there's no winning as an ego. The Course says that forgiveness is acquired. And I like to joke and say forgiveness is an acquired taste. And once we get the taste for it, wow. Then nothing the ego tempts us with is enticing anymore. Because the ego tempts us with betrayal and treachery and righteousness and feeling that we would have never done that. Or not caring. Double standards and hypocrisy. We know that we would have done that, but we don't care right now because we're, red with anger and green with jealousy. But when we start to realize that this is how the ego operates, it could be you, it could be me, then we really withdraw our energy from any kind of crazy thought that the ego has, any self-serving thought. And the holy relationship is moving through us so constantly, so often, so much more frequently, that it becomes a habit. And now we're motivated naturally by wanting the highest good for all, because we realize that I am you and you are me. And if I attack you, I've attacked myself. And if I see the best in you, I see the best in me. Do you realize that this is the best moment of your life? This very moment. Because you're starting to get who you really are. Every moment is the best moment of your life because you are life. You are not a person living life. You are life. And the holy relationship will show you that. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to leave special relationships. Every relationship you have with every person during this dream will be a special relationship, as long as you perceive yourself as a body. That's okay. It's neither good nor bad. It's how you use the special relationship. If you use it for the highest good of all, it dissolves. Because ultimately, there's only one ego mind. ultimately, there's a true recognition that we are not billions of bodies on the planet Earth. And the body is perceived very differently. It becomes a communication link. It becomes a vehicle that the Holy Spirit moves through. We use it for real communication, loving communication, fearless communication, innocent, cooperative joining. We get out of our own way. We step back and let Him lead the way. And then we're surprised that words come to us and words pop out of our mouths that are unexpected and that may very well be healing to the other person, but even more so to ourselves, the one who said them and went, "Did I just say that?" The truth feels so potent to me right now. There's a story about Baba Muktananda. Maybe some of you are familiar with Baba Muktananda, who died in the 80s, and Guru Mai was his protege, and she took over the Siddha Yoga community. I think Baba was going to be speaking at Carnegie Hall in New York, someplace like that. And one of his devotees was so excited, and before the event began, he said to Baba, "Do you feel the energy? Do you feel it?" He could just feel the hall bristling with energy. And Baba remained very calm, very composed and unaffected by his devotee's excitement. And the devotee kept saying to him, "Baba, do you feel the energy?" And finally Baba answered, "I always feel the energy." It doesn't matter if there's one person or 1,000 people. When you are connected with the Holy Spirit in holy relationship as a messenger for energy, you always feel the energy. I feel the energy right now, the vibration of life. The Course doesn't talk about energy or vibrations, but each of us, as a seemingly separate individual, will experience love and miracles and awakening in form for a while. And often the breath or tingling, vibration, the wiggling that lets us know that we're alive. Everything is humming with life here on the planet. The wind in the trees, the cicadas buzzing, even rocks. Something is happening. And so right now, the form in which I'm feeling connection is a back and forth of a kind of tingling magnetic push and pull between the hands and all around me and inside of me, and stillness, where there's no urge to talk at all, just a I'm hoping that this is infectious and that you too are so here now, that you're picking up. You're getting the hang of tuning in. I think this webinar began with lesson 126 from the workbook. I really let them just take over and show up. Let's see. All that I give is given to myself is lesson 126. Today's idea, completely alien to the ego and the thinking of the world, is crucial to the thought reversal that this course will bring about. If you believe this statement, all that I give is given to myself, there would be no problem in complete forgiveness, certainty of goal, and sure direction. You would understand the means by which salvation comes to you and would not hesitate to use it now. You do not understand forgiveness, it says in paragraph 6. As you see it, it is but a check upon overt attack without requiring correction in your mind. It cannot give you peace as you perceive it. It is not a means for your release from what you see in someone other than yourself. It has no power to restore your unity with Him to your awareness. It is not what God intended it to be for you, because we see forgiveness as a favor that we're doing somebody else because they did something wrong, and we'll let them off the hook, but we're not really forgiving them. And we certainly don't understand that in forgiving them, we are releasing ourselves. Or hopefully by now, many of you do at least intellectually understand that. And some of you have a felt sense, a click of recognition, so you are getting it. And that's why Jesus says that this course is a beginning, not an end. Although many years can be spent letting the course really move through us and cleanse us and purify us of the intense attachment we've had to the ego and the hypnotic identification we've had in believing that we're a person and believing that the world happens to us and believing that being born is a random event. It really takes a while, even if you have a full-out blast of recognition of what you truly are. Most people do not stabilize in that knowledge. And so having the course to hold on to, if you recognize it as really being your path, helps you stabilize in the truth. And then, after a while, you just let go of the course because you're so fully connected to the Holy Spirit. One way that I knew that was happening for me was that I had skin hunger. I badly needed affection. I always wanted to be hugged, and massages would help me with that. I would go for a massage and allow myself to be touched very lovingly and be healed in that way. And at a certain point, I noticed that I did not need physical affection anymore. It was pleasant, but it didn't matter. That was a huge change in me as I, bit by bit, took in that I'm not the body, so the body doesn't need anything. I care for the body, like I care for my car, take it in for service checks. Because until I gently lay it aside, it sure is more pleasant to have a well-functioning body. But psychologically, disidentifying with the body is such liberation. The fear of death goes away completely. And so relationships are a state of mind, since love is a state of mind. So any single body that seems to be in front of us is potential for us to have a holy encounter by seeing the light in that quote-unquote person, seeing that person not as a person, but as light, and knowing that it's not a betrayal of anybody if we love anyone and everyone equally, because we enter into a state of mind called love rather than fear. And it could be an animal, it could be anything that used to frighten us. Water, fire, disease. To be willing to see through. The body may experience fear sensations, and we just observe them and give them to the Holy Spirit. Rather than protect the body, and I'm certainly not saying to endanger the body, but rather than to be focused on protecting the body, we want to protect the mind from slipping and believing in the body eventually. For now, if you're at that point where you believe in the body full force, just look at that with the Holy Spirit and say, use my body as a good classroom, and help me disidentify with the body little by little. Not too quick, Holy Spirit, that would be too scary for me. And as we do disidentify with the body, we identify with the light that we are. And then everything is a holy encounter, because everything is imbued with light. Each holy instant brings the darkness to the light, and then the light comes back to the darkness while we still seem to be here. You do that enough times, and you're just glowing from within until there is no within and without. And if that appeals to you, that's why you stick with the Course. I consider it a form of self-inquiry. The Course is not the first spiritual path to say, who are you really? Who is the you who decided to be the ego? And who is the you who can choose again, who can use the power of decision to remember who and what you already are? Who is that you? Who is the you beyond the brain that is comprehending this Course, which is beyond comprehension? Who is the you that is choosing to tune in to the truth of your identity? Another way that I knew I was in holy relationship, and that holy relationship became primary relationship, just naturally took over as the only real relationship, which then flows into all my other relationships, was that I realized that my smile was my natural joy, and that smile had been with me my entire life. And that smile was not Amy. See, the smile is something that you hear over the telephone. You can hear a smile, and you cannot fake a smile. They have all kinds of lie detector tests, not hooking you up to a machine, but just looking at facial expressions. And smiles, there are certain telltale signs that reveal a fake smile. Now you know yourself. To some extent you know yourself. Where is the Holy Spirit moving through you since day one that has nothing to do with your body or your name? I know it's in my smile. I know it's in my breath. At some point in time years ago, I started to have these spontaneous exhales. And they were always like a highlighter pen saying, pay attention to this. This is true. Again, that was invisible, that breath. There are telltale signs. Find them. Notice them. Notice how you're feeling right now in this moment. You may have body sensations. If they're fear, just notice the symptoms of fear. Give those symptoms to the Holy Spirit. Let's be less impressed with fear. Fear, it's always there. Aren't you sick of it? The heart is palpitating. The head seems dizzy. You're off balance. You're tense. Your muscles ache. Enough. Let's just make a list. Notice everything. Give it to the Holy Spirit. That's the practical application of giving. This is the most rewarding relationship. Give everything to the Holy Spirit. Give what you're afraid He'll take away. Give things that make you happy, that seem important to you. Give everything. And see what happens. This is the leap of faith I'm asking you to take today. This holy relationship, giving everything to Spirit within you. It'll be like unraveling a complicated knot, and when you're done, it opens, and there you are in the unknot. The ego is a knot. You are not a knot. You are not love. You are love. Being not love is the interference, the static that the ego puts up perpetually to keep us unaware that we're not a body, we're a mind. Giving everything to the Holy Spirit, being in holy relationship. Is stillness. And we don't even know what stillness means, because we're not talking about human silence. But you'll know it when you have it, because it's you. Here is yourself, right now. See you next month. Namaste.
Om.